I had a crush on Zach for my whole high school life, maybe even before I knew what having a crush even was. We were close friends in middle school and then drifted apart as the years went by, but we always stayed friendly with each other. When we would walk past in the hallway, we would say hello and return to our conversation with our friends. All this time, though, I've been madly in love with him. Every time I see him with another girl, I get a sinking feeling in my stomach. I wish he would look at me the way he looks at the others, but so far, nothing like that had happened, until one fateful day. All of my friends know that I would do pretty much anything to be with Zach, and they continuously tease me about my crush. Last time, when we were at Hannah's birthday party, all 6 of us were playing Truth or Dare in Hannah's basement. Most of the dares were silly, like get up and run around the room barking like a dog, or drink a can of Coke as fast as you can without stopping. But when it came to my turn, Hannah was the one to ask me, Truth or Dare. I chose Dare, as to not be called a wuss in front of all my friends. Hannah didn't even stop a beat to think when she blurted out, I dare you to steal Zach's underwear from his locker on Monday when he's at soccer practice. There was a gleam in her eye. She knew I was caught in the crosshairs. My face went bright red. I don't think that's gonna happen. Everyone in the room told me that I had to do it. They were all staring at me with wide eyes. No way, no how. Besides, I have dance practice when he's at soccer practice, so I can't do it. Oh well, try again, I said. Hannah dared me to skip dance practice and steal the underwear. I sighed. What would I do with his dirty underwear? I said. One of my friends said to cuddle up with them. The other said to sell them on eBay. Man, they were a little weird. They were obviously no help at all. Okay, I'll do it. But I better not regret this. If I regret it, you're going to regret it even more, I said to Hannah. And then we spent the rest of the night devising the plan. After a night of cold sweats and no sleep, it was Monday morning, underwear day. All night I thought about how to chicken out, but I knew it wasn't going to happen. If I didn't go to school, Hannah would come to my house and drag me out by my ear. If I pretended like I stole it, she would know. I don't know how, but she would. Hannah would not let me live it down if I gave up on a dare like this. We'd been playing Truth or Dare as a group for 10 years, and no one had chickened out since 6th grade. That was the night we dared our friend Beverly to jump into the principal's pool naked. We snuck out to the principal's house at midnight, ran into his backyard, and she was just about to take her clothes off to jump in when the principal's dog came barking out of his doghouse. We are surprised we didn't die that night. So, technically, she didn't chicken out, but ever since then, everyone's done their dare. It's just like a rule now. Anyway, I spent most of that day at school trying to keep an eye on Zach. I didn't want anyone to tell him that I was going to be sneaking into his locker later. Sometimes my friends liked to tease him about me, too, and I had a feeling they would try to trick him into meeting me down there to catch me. So I made sure that no one really talked to him from my group. Zach was famous. He had a lot of friends from different cliques. One of the cheerleaders was chatting with him through our entire lunch period. One of the jocks was teaching him how to throw a three-pointer during gym class. And the computer whiz of the school had Nick showing him how to work a certain part of their robot in our electronics class. He just knew everyone, and everyone liked him. Maybe that's why I liked him too. After school, I usually go to dance class on Mondays from 3 to 5. But I was going to blow that off today. I hated doing that because dancing was one of the small ways that I could let my frustrations out. A dare is a dare, though. The soccer practice started at 3 as well, so I knew the boys would be coming out of the locker room soon. I waited by the staircase out of view until the last boy scuttled out onto the field outside. I snuck down into the locker room. It smelled like old shoes and skunk down there. Nothing I would ever want to smell again. Everyone's lockers looked the same, jam-packed with jeans and different colored t-shirts. I memorized what Zach was wearing so that my search would be easier. And after scanning for just a few minutes, I came across his at the end of the last hallway. I was rummaging through his clothes when I heard someone whistling down the stairs. If I got caught in here, I would be in so much trouble. I needed to hide, but there was nowhere to go. I was standing next to a wall. The only way out was to sneak back through where the person was walking. My only choice was to get into the locker and pray. As soon as I pulled the door shut, Zach popped his head around the corner. I burst into a cold sweat. He couldn't see me through the locker door, but I could see him perfectly. And I cannot believe what happened next. Zach sat down on the bench in front of his locker. I was holding my breath as the cheerleader that he was talking to at lunch today came into the locker room as well. I know what you're thinking, but no, they weren't there for some romantic meeting, I don't think. Instead, it looked like Zach had money in his hand and he gave it to the cheerleader. She reached into her backpack and gave him a packet of papers. That's not even the strangest thing that happened. Soon after, the jock that was teaching him how to play basketball earlier was there, and Zach slid him money as well. From my vantage point, it looked like he gave the kid a stack of $100 bills. Person after person entered the locker room, and each one of them exchanged money or objects among them and Zach. The craziest thing of all was no one said a word the entire time. I thought that things were winding down, and I was going to get out of this locker soon. I was beginning to cramp, and I really had to pee, when the soccer coach came around the corner. It was only then that Zach said something. "Hey, coach." They exchanged kind remarks, and then the coach pulled a paper out of his back pocket. "Okay, here's how you did at practice today." And the paper showed achievements, times, and points that Zach scored during practice. The practice he had been sitting in the locker room for. "Awesome, thanks, man," Zach said and slapped a stack of money in the coach's hand. They both walked out of the locker room, and this was finally my chance to escape. I climbed out of the locker and finally stretched my body. I looked at my watch. I had been in the locker for 2 hours. I was just about to tiptoe out of the locker room, my hands squeezing the life out of Zach's underwear, when none other than Zach himself rounded the corner. "Hey, Claudia, what's going on?" He looked super confused. I didn't blame him. I hadn't been here, and then I was. "Surprise!" I said, holding up my hands, the ones that were holding his underwear. He blinked, clearly freaked out and wordless. I tried to hide the underwear, but it was no use. "What you doing with my boxers?" Zach asked, eyebrows raised. "I could ask you what you're doing handing off thousands of dollars to people, especially your soccer coach, but we could also just walk away from each other and pretend this never happened." His face went white. "You saw that?" he asked. His mind must have been blown because he stared off into the distance. "I'll tell you why I was in here if you tell me why all those people were taking money from you." "Ha, not a chance," he said, trying to take his underwear from my grubby palms. "Are you in the mob or something?" I asked, pulling the undies away from him. It took him a bit, but he finally gave in. He knew he wasn't getting out of this without some type of answer. That's when he told me that he paid everyone to do things for him. The cheerleader does all his English homework. She writes all of his essays and gives him the answers to the tests since she has the class right before him. He pays her $1,000 a week, which he gets from his rich dad. The jock teaches him how to play basketball for $200 a week. All of this left me in disbelief. Then he said that he paid the coach $1,000 a week to pretend he's a soccer star. Zach has 40 awards, countless certificates, and a scholarship to college, and he's never stepped foot onto the soccer field. His cleats hang in his locker and have never touched mud. I wondered why his locker didn't smell bad like the rest of the room. "You can't tell anyone about this," he said, putting his hand on my knee. "Why not? Isn't this extortion?" I thought to myself. "Because I would be ruined," he almost shouted. "Well, if you want me to be quiet, then you better cut me in on some kind of deal." I don't think he was expecting those words to come out of my mouth. "Whatever you want. $1,000 a week? A car? What? My parents won't even notice." "Your money sounds nice, but that's not what I want. I want you to go out with me. Be my boyfriend. You realize you're creepily holding my underwear and we're hiding in my locker, right?" I nodded, knowing full well that I sounded like a stage 5 clinger. "Okay," I said, standing up. "I guess I'll be going now. I'll have to talk to the principal before I leave school, so I better catch her on her way out." Zach grabbed my arm and squeezed. "You can't. Please. My parents would disown me." He pulled me in for a kiss, and I felt instant fireworks between us. I don't know if he felt the same way, but it honestly didn't matter because I got the boy I wanted, and I got to keep his underwear as a souvenir. My friends don't understand how a silly dare that they didn't think I would pull off could end up with me having the boyfriend of my dreams. And I'm never going to tell them that this is all a ruse to keep Zach out of prison. The more Zach and I hang out, the more he seems to actually like me. He keeps asking me if I would rather have money, and of course, I say no. I would never choose money over him. However, I have asked him if he ever plans to stop paying everyone to do his responsibilities for him. He said that if he makes it into the college of his dreams, he'll stop paying people to do his work. For some reason, I don't believe him. He wants to go to a really prestigious school, and I know he's not really smart enough to be accepted. If he actually does get in, he'll fail miserably once he has to do his own schoolwork. That's why I've begged him to pay off the admissions counselors for both of us to get in. That way, I can keep a better eye on him. All we have to do now is wait for our admissions results to come back. We'll know if we have the grades to get in, and if we don't, he said he'd make sure that we're both walking down those tree-lined sidewalks by next fall. He'd bet his money on it.
Hello, my name is Emily. I'm much like you in many ways, perhaps. I have a normal suburban house. I have 2 parents that love me. I go to high school and I love animals. But one thing in my life is possibly nothing like anything you've ever experienced. My sister Amy. Amy was not normal. She never had been. She held a burning hatred for me from the moment I was born. My parents told me she once tried to put me into a washing machine and turn it on to see if it would hurt me. She called it an experiment. Thankfully, my parents intercepted her cruel antics and began to distance her from me since then. Amy was cruel and scary, even to my parents. Growing up, I could see how they fawned over me and cherished me, while they would always walk on eggshells around Amy, terrified of accidentally sending her into one of her angry fits. I once brought a little puppy home from the street and Amy became utterly enraged to see him there. She screamed at the top of her voice about how her parents had denied her a dog for years and how unfair it was that they were allowing me to keep one. I told her we could share the puppy together. I was young, and I hoped that she would love me. I had no idea what she truly was. We kept the puppy, Terrence, together. Amy, however, wouldn't let me play with him or even come near him. Even if I cried and cried, Amy would simply laugh cruelly from the other side of the locked door while little Terrence would bark on. It was torture. One day when Amy was in school, I broke the lock of her room and stole Terrence. I just wanted to play with him for a little while. He seemed so excited to be out of that cramped room too, his little tail wagging all around. So I happily went to our backyard with him and a frisbee. I found his tracks leading away into the forest behind our house, but they went all the way into the dangerous, dark areas. I was forbidden from going in there. Dejected, I came home and told Amy and my parents that I lost Terrence. That's when true hell was unleashed on me. Amy lost her mind. She began to wail loudly, uncontrollably. She screamed at me for breaking into her room and attacked me, trying to yank on my hair. My father pulled her back before she could reach me, and Amy swore that she was going to get me back for doing this to her. I cried and swore up and down that I didn't mean to lose Terrence. I loved him too, to make her suffer. She told me that now she would make me suffer. I had no way to know how much she meant those words. I'm not a cruel person, so I had no way to understand how much she truly wanted me to ache. She hid under my bed one night, waiting for me to slip under the covers. Then, when I was resting in my bed, she grabbed my ankles and let out a horrific screech, yanking me off the bed. I was so terrified my heart nearly leapt out of my throat. I cried for my parents as I crashed on the floor. Amy stood up and laughed at me, walking away with a pompous bounce. Weeks after that day, I went on a date with Henry Hills, the cutest boy in our school. I was so excited about this. I could barely stand it. He took me out for dinner and ice cream, and then I brought him home to meet my family. When I took him to my room, however, the sight before him made him scream. All of my dolls were hung by noose around their neck. They swung side to side from the ropes attached to the rafters, like so many bodies. Henry Hills ran out of my room, He never spoke to me again since that day. The reports of my house of horrors spread like wildfire, and no one from school would come to my house anymore. They were all terrified of Amy. How could she do this? What the hell was wrong with Amy? I knew she was sick, but this was getting out of hand. What I didn't know was that she was just getting started. She snuck into my room the night before the spring dance at school. She climbed in through the window with a pair of scissors.